We're about to ruin your summer if you're a bad guy. So I'm just warning you now, like, don't buy movie tickets because you're probably not going to cash them in.
That's Dan Bongino. That was back in May. In May, it's now July. And Dan Bongino talking about the, I know he made it clear when he was on the radio before he went to the FBI that he wants to get this Epstein thing out into the light of day. And a very good and happy Monday to you once again. We may be reached at 888-630-9625. Talking about the goings-on at the Justice Department, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, the FBI Director, Kash Patel, the FBI Deputy Director, Dan Bongino, known to all of you. And now there's a big food fight going on. And I've got to say, all of this does not serve President Trump very well at all. The frothy lefty news media all over it. MAGA turmoil. MAGA turmoil grows over handling of Epstein files. MSDNC. The MS-13 people, they're all over it, of course. They have headline after headline after headline. Will attention now turn to AG Bondi over handling of Epstein files? They can't get enough of this. And the headline in quotation marks, everything should be released, colon. They love their colons. Raskin calls making Epstein files public. I think they meant to say calls for, but they're not good at writing or journalism or the English language or any of that stuff at NBC Fake News, and certainly not at MSDNC. But this is a fascinating set of circumstances, and I was talking about this. We were talking about this just a short time ago. I was talking about how the Democrats are, interestingly, they're out there screaming and yelling, I know Trump's on the Epstein list. You've got to release the Epstein list, rather. And of course the Democrats, I mentioned Chuck Schumer is not out there pounding the table saying release the Epstein list. Nancy Pelosi is not out there saying release the Epstein list. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, big mouth Bass, Karen Bass, the mayor of Los Angeles, former House member, not calling for the release of the Epstein list. But they did get one schmucky Democrat to come out and said they got Jamie Raskin, who, the Lost Marks brother, you know him, from, he's very popular on MS-13, DNC also. He's a radical, he's a lefty. But it turns out the MS-DNC people really spun up as Trump tries to shut down Epstein questions, more Democrats start asking them. And that's that. It's kind of a phony window dressing thing. It's Jamie Raskin taking the lead. You know, if you want Jamie Raskin to take the lead on anything, you're burying it. Hey, Raskin's got it. Let's give it to Raskin. He'll eat anything. The president wants to end the public conversation about the late millionaire pedophile as quickly as he can. Those efforts appear to be failing. Well, this is Steve Bannon at MS-13 DNC, and they're going all over it. There's no great mystery as to how and why much of Donald Trump's base has focused obsessively on conspiracy theories surrounding the late millionaire pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, who died behind bars, but they didn't say whether he killed himself or not, in 2019 while facing federal charges of child sex trafficking. Joe Biden is the world's leading child sex trafficker. He was when he was president anyway. He's probably given it up now. The right has fixated on the story because members of the president's team, for all intents and purposes, told them to. They lie about everything. Every sentence is a lie at MSDNC, honestly. Some made comments before they took office, others during their tenure. But from Attorney General Pam Bondi to Vice President J.D. Vance to FBI Director Kash Patel, some of the high-profile and powerful figures in Trump's orbit stoked these fires for years. Well, that part is actually half true, at least. And said, hey, what about this Epstein thing? And isn't it fascinating how for all these years, now, again, that's 2019. When did Joe Biden become president? 2019, that Epstein was arrested and died in prison and all that stuff. But where was there's all the outrage is political and faux, of course. That's a French word. Now they're trying to put that fire out, they say, telling the right that the conspiracy theories aren't true, and rank-and-file conservatives clearly aren't pleased with the reversals. Sure. It was against this backdrop that the president held another White House cabinet meeting where a reporter asked about the controversy, and they go on and on. And we played that for you last week, and they got all that. But in any case, now they have Jamie Raskin because for some reason Nancy Pelosi's not out there demanding the release. Chuck Schumer's not out there demanding the release. Jeffrey Epstein, of course, a lifelong Democrat, not a conservative. How did he make all his money? Hard to say. Really difficult, you got to say. But now the Democrats, the House Judiciary Committee ranking member, the lead Democrat, but not chair because they don't control the House, Jamie Raskin, along with 15 more of the 19 Democrats on the committee, the House Judiciary Committee, demanded in a letter last Tuesday that Attorney General Pam Bondi release the Epstein file documents mentioning, I love this, mentioning President Donald Trump. See, that's it. They say if Trump's name is in there, and again, this has already been litigated, I want to see the list released. I don't believe there's not a list. That might be a semantic matter, but there's clearly a collection of names. Let's call it a collection of names, not a list. Maybe they're spread out, over to the upper right and then the lower left, and it's not organized as a list. Maybe that's part of the problem. It's hard to say. But now Jamie Raskin and 15 more of the 19 Democrats, but not the other 4 Democrats on the same committee, demanded in a letter that Attorney General Pam Bondi release what they call the Epstein file, documents mentioning President Trump. Now, MSDNC and Jamie Raskin, they throw in the mentioning President Donald Trump. But they just pulled that out of their dark and remote location, which they're so fond of doing. They like going in there. They like going out of there. They like everything about it. The letter, which rails against Pam Bondi for potentially withholding information that would embarrass the president. See, this is their hope. And I talked about this in the last hour, actually. The Democrats, to the extent that they want anything to do with it, they think they can lynch Trump from a tree with a rope, right? But again, this has been litigated again and again. President Trump's relationship or lack thereof with Jeffrey Epstein, a New York rich guy who had his own jet and his own private island, and everybody flew there to have sex with underage girls. And, so it's going to be overwhelmingly Democrats. And that's why Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi and AOC are not pounding the table and demanding the release. But this Raskin ruse gives the Democrat media a talking point, and that is the reason for the Raskin letter. Oh, yeah, we want it. Okay. They just want the name Trump. That's all they want. They're a lynch mob just like they were in the 1850s and in the 1860s and in the 1870s. The Democrat Party is a gang of vile, violent people, with bloodlust. That's who they are. So amazing stuff. And they have, what's his name, Ron Wyden, the left-wing Democrat from Oregon, says that Pam Bondi's handling of this, quote, reeks of cover-up. And the truth is, it doesn't look good. It doesn't smell good. And some people want Pam Bondi to be fired, right? And then what? I've got to say, I'd like to see Kash Patel and Dan Bongino hold a press conference today and come out with the stacks of documents and say, here they are, and here's what we promised. Here's what we're going to give you. I'd like to see that. And if Pam Bondi won't hold the press conference, she is the Attorney General. She's the one who said that she had the documents on her desk back in February, then I'd like to see Pam Bondi hold that press conference as the Attorney General. And she could hold it with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, the number one and the number two at the FBI. I think that'd be real good indeed. That's what I think. Now, there is a lot of infighting going on in conservative circles and Republican circles. Joe DiGenova. Now, full disclosure, Joe DiGenova is a friend of mine, and I love Joe and his wife, Victoria Tunsing, friends, and we go out to dinner together, and we do stuff together, and we like each other. Now, Joe DiGenova was on the Larry O'Connor and Company show on WMAL in Washington today, and they had a good back and forth on this subject. And I want to play a bit of audio from O'Connor and Company, and it's Larry O'Connor and Julie Gunlock this morning talking to Joe DiGenova about this mess. Here is Joe DiGenova.
What this fight at the White House was about, apparently, was about the PR process by which this all evolved.
Right.
And apparently, Dan Bongino decided he was going to blame Pam Bondi for that. Well, you know, I must say, I would love to be the deputy director of the FBI and have an opportunity to work in this incredibly rich criminal environment of the former administration. Why would you blow up in the White House in front of? By the way, I'm assuming this reporting is correct because I'm assuming that somebody close to Dan Bongino leaked this thing. I can tell you right now, if you're Susan Wiles, you are not happy about this. And if Dan Bongino wants to leave, she may say, "Here's the door."
Now, Susie Wiles, the White House chief of staff, and she apparently is kind of quiet, doesn't like a very high profile as White House chief of staff. Some do, some don't. But apparently she is pounding the table a bit, and she's apparently pretty tough, and she doesn't put up with a lot of guff, according to multiple reports. But Joe DiGenova talking about there was this fight last week at the White House, was widely publicized between Dan Bongino and the Attorney General Pam Bondi, and lots of loudness and yelling and all that stuff. And Susie Wiles, White House chief of staff, not very happy about it all. Joe DiGenova.
This is very stupid. And it's stupid because here we have this incredible billions of dollars in budget surplus, no inflation, jobs are up, wages are up, the country is swimming along, peace is breaking out all over the world, the president is being denied the Nobel Prize even though he deserves it, and somebody goes into the White House and decides to have a fraternity fight about PR? How stupid can you be?
Well, honestly, I've got to say there's a good deal of truth to everything. Well, certainly the latter part, but everything Joe DiGenova said there. President Trump has a lot of great things to talk about being nominated again for the Nobel Peace Prize by Benjamin Netanyahu, by working on peace in the Middle East and in Africa, and he really should be on the very short list for the Nobel Peace Prize. The jobs in the United States of America, beautiful. The economy, beautiful. The Democrats said back in May that the economy was going to implode. Inflation is down to nothing. Jobs are up through the roof. We're doing great. We're controlling our border. We're rounding up gang members. There are all kinds of great things to talk about. And then clumsily, I would say, this becomes the dominant news story. And none of this serves President Trump's interests. None of it. And it shouldn't be a fight that we're watching. Shouldn't be the fight that we're watching. And I've got more on this. And also John Solomon, the great reporter, coming up about Barack Obama and more. That's coming up. You know, the big wireless companies are pulling one over on all of us. It's time to switch to consumer cellular. Listen, I got the same fast, reliable, nationwide big wireless coverage without the big wireless cost. And it's not just about saving money on your bill every month. It's about not being used and abused by the big phone companies, the carriers. Now, do you even know how much data you use every month? Because you're paying for a lot. Most people over the age of 50 use less than 8 gigs of data in a month. If you're 19, you use many times that. But Big Wireless wants to shove you into an unlimited plan because they need you to cover the costs of 19-year-olds who use 10 times as much data as you do. And, if you're not using all that data, then you're the one being used. I'd had enough of that stuff, and I went with Consumer Cellular. They set me up with a great service and an amazing phone, and it was really incredibly easy to switch. All you have to do is give them a call. Talk to an actual human being, a real person based right here in the United States, not a bot based on a space platform. They're incredibly helpful people right here in the U.S. Only takes about 20 minutes, and it saves you a lot of money. So give them a call and make the switch today. Call them at 1-800-760-0702. That's 1-800-760-0702. Yeah. And so there it is. All right, I've got a lot more coming up. President Obama, where's he headed now? That's coming up. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. All right, I got to do this. There's a lot to be spun up on this one, and I will share these with you. Today is also Bastille Day, which is a big deal if you're French. Happy Bastille Day, trying to imitate our revolution. Didn't do as good a job, did you? I've got more on that, too. Let's see. I don't have a ton of time, but let's go to Paul calling from the once great state of Massachusetts. Paul, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Chris, thanks for taking my call. Love your show. If it were up to me, you would never be allowed to take another vacation.
Thank you.
But, that aside, I got a different take. And the caveat I'd like to start with is I feel terrible, and it's a travesty what happened to these young ladies. However, I see this Pam Bondi letter, or the list, as it were, as a bullet. And once you fire it, it's gone, and it's no longer useful for anybody. I kind of have a feeling, number one, there absolutely is a list. Number two, Donald Trump absolutely has seen it and knows about it. And number three, as soon as he outs it, he's all done. And I think he's using it to get his agenda pushed through because he has dirt on half or large percentage of probably the House and the Senate. And if you think back a few weeks when they said, oh, it was miraculously you got all these people to sign on to the bill. So, he moved heaven and earth to do it. Well,
I like it. You're very cynical. Ah, yes. And Debbie was a man Schnitz. She's out there, defending illegal alien gang member criminals because Democrats want more illegal alien gang member criminals loose on the streets of the United States of America. She is appalled that when you've been arrested, that you don't get a luxury suite with a balcony and maybe a splash pool. Maybe a splash pool would be in order. We've got Debbie was a man Schnitz coming up because she's, what is she? A piece of work. A piece of work is what she is. All right, but before, I got to tell you, the whole Dan Bongino versus Pam Bondi, Attorney General, Kash Patel kind of in the middle of it, and Susie Wiles, the White House Chief of Staff, very much embroiled in this, too. This is not what the White House should be spending their time talking about. Their time should not be spent on this. They shouldn't be focused on this. It shouldn't be a news story. So many great, important news stories to talk about and, world events to talk about, and that make President Trump look good, look great. But right now, we've got this food fight going on over the Jeffrey Epstein files. And our last caller, and I apologize, Paul, because Paul was great. And not just because he said I should never be allowed to take a vacation day, which was very nice, very flattering. But every now and then I got to take a vacation day. Now, Paul said, listen, maybe the list is being used by President Trump. This is Washington, D.C., after all, because the administration, the Justice Department, sitting on Pam Bondi's desk. President Trump certainly has access to it. Is it, I think the implication of what Paul was arguing was that President Trump or the White House, the legislative aides are maybe dropping hints about the list. Well, it got to be a real shame if the list became public and your wife found out about and your voters found out about and that'd be blackmail, or just arm twisting. In Washington talk, that's just arm twisting, right? But, Paul, I apologize for running the clock out on you, but good stuff it is. And Paul was saying that in addition to my not taking vacation, that Pam Bondi has the list, so President Trump has the list, and it's kind of a bullet. Once you use it, it's spent. You can't use the same bullet over and over again. So as long as you have it tucked away, it continues to be of use. At some point, it will cease to be of use. Now, that's very political, and I think I said, well, that's very cynical. But the truth is you can't be cynical enough. In 2025, the American political universe, it's impossible to be cynical enough. That's, I think, fair and true. And I want to get to this a little later, too. It's also impossible to hate the media enough. And that was a big one online yesterday. Boy, it's impossible to hate the media enough. And for example, where's that? Because we had that CNN headline, didn't we? That CNN when a year ago yesterday, the anniversary was 1 year ago yesterday, and the CNN headline was making the rounds again when CNN learned that President Trump had been shot. Oh, we've also got the local news, the local Channel 4 news, where they made note of the anniversary, the 1 year anniversary of the shooting of President Trump, right? And the CNN headline, what was that CNN headline, Michael? It was kind of a funny CNN, in its own way, funny, in a world where almost everything can be funny. It's true that the CNN headline from the shooting itself was almost like a satire of bad news. And the CNN headline was, Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls at rally. That was the CNN headline a year ago yesterday when President Trump was shot by a sniper using an AR-style rifle, as the media likes to refer to them. And the CNN headline was pretty amazing. And the photograph is of Trump being picked up by Secret Service, growling with blood streaming down his face from the gunshot wound, and he's pumping his fist in the air. And a cluster of Secret Service agents, one woman and 3 or 4 men, grabbing President Trump and pulling him off the stage. Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls at rally. Oh, look, Trump fell at a rally. That's the CNN headline. That might be the one that led to the greatest number of, it's impossible to hate the media enough. You just can't hate the media enough. 1 year ago yesterday, Trump was shot by Thomas Crooks in Butler, Pennsylvania. And it's all over the news. It's everywhere. It's still 1 year later. The headline in the Washington Times today, the front page lead story, failures of Secret Service nearly killed Trump. That's the headline entirely across the front page, the top of of page 1. Senate report finds discipline far too weak. Need a good spanking. Need more discipline. Spank me. And so failure. So that we got that. And this one making the rounds yesterday. Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls at rally is great. And then my friend Marty, a great newsman, sent me this morning, hey, was watching the local Channel 4 news, the NBC station in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, and they made note of the fact that it was the 1 year anniversary of Trump being shot by a sniper who was then killed by a U.S. Secret Service counter sniper. 1 shot, 1 kill in Butler, Pennsylvania. It was, pretty much a suicide attack trying to murder President Trump. And he was winged by a bullet. Another man was killed. Corey Compatore was killed, shot and killed. Fire chief, husband, father of two, shot and killed by the Democrat in the suicide attack. 2 more people shot and wounded by the Democrat. And again, the CNN headline is Trump is rushed off stage after he falls at rally, right? Last night, the local NBC station in Washington, D.C.
Today marks 1 year since a gunman allegedly tried to assassinate President Donald Trump on the campaign trail in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Allegedly. He allegedly tried to? So what do you think he was? Maybe it was a quail hunt gone bad? He allegedly. Well, we wouldn't want to leap to any conclusions there, would we? No, we wouldn't. He allegedly did? Did that rush him off stage after he fell a year ago? Cut himself shaving? Remember, the Democrats tried to make up all kinds of things. Oh, he threw himself to the ground because he's a coward, and he cut his ear on the podium. The Democrats actually trotted those out. They tried that. Isn't that amazing? Man, oh, Manischewitz. All right, so he played soundbite number 7 and number 8 and number 9. And now, this is something that got my attention. This morning, again, on O'Connor and Company, WMAL in Washington, D.C., my mothership radio station, Joe DiGenova was on with Larry O'Connor, and it was good because Joe's always great. And Joe talking to Larry O'Connor this morning, and talking about Joe was first talking about how much of a waste of time it is to be talking about the Trump White House and the FBI and the Justice Department to be talking about this right now when there are so many good news stories for the White House and the president they should be talking about now. But then something else came up, and that something else is Barack Hussein Obama. You know, they hate the Jews, don't they? What's with them? So Joe DiGenova talking to Larry O'Connor and said, well, wait a minute, there's something else coming up, too. And it's got to do with Barack Obama and 2016, going all the way back there when Donald Trump won the presidency the first time and crushed and defeated Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton. That was great. Joe DiGenova this morning.
The proof in the pudding will be this conspiracy case that the FBI is now investigating. I don't know who the prosecutors are because that means a lot. But let me just tell you something. Barack Obama is going to be sitting in a grand jury within the next 3 months.
Barack Obama will be sitting, meaning testifying, grand jury, be the subject of a grand jury investigation. Having to do with what exactly? Well, the great news reporter John Solomon, Just the News, he was talking about this as well, based on his own reporting. And he was talking to Steve Bannon on Steve Bannon's podcast, right? I think that Real America's Voice, talking to Steve Bannon and John Solomon, the great Washington-based news reporter, talking about what's going on at the White House and the FBI and the infighting and a lot of unhappiness in Trump land and MAGA land, and rightly so, understandably so. But John Solomon is an actual news reporter.
Next week, over the next 10 days, the base who's been wondering, where's all that accountability? They're going to get some big surprises over the next week concerning where the conspiracy began a few weeks before Crossfire Hurricane was open and when it ended, all the way in 2024, when they were still trying to pursue Donald Trump to keep him from winning the presidency. There's a big case that's been built by the Justice Department and the FBI. It's been masked by a lot of this infighting and drama and soap opera stuff. But the truth of the matter is, MAGA base Americans are going to be happy when they see where this is all heading in the next few weeks.
Well, MAGA base America is going to be very happy when they see where all of this is going in the next few weeks. In fact, he said this week for part of it. And honestly, the conspiracy, the Crossfire Hurricane, that's the corrupt FBI, the abuses of power by the Democrats, by the left, commies that they are. And boy, and John Solomon is no slacker. He's not a hysterian. by any stretch of the imagination. He's very smart, very capable news reporter, very well connected, and he's very precise in his use of the English language, which is helpful in today's world as well. Big cases from the Department of Justice, the FBI, and it's kind of being a smoke screen is being laid down because the infighting at DOJ, the Department of Justice, and the FBI, and the White House, and the media loves it because it gives them a chance to cover something that doesn't mean anything, right? By Crossfire Hurricane. So the next week or 10 days, and then he talked about slightly longer term for weeks as well. So that is kind of a big deal. Now, what's he talking about? Conspiracy, and we've got Obama, Joe DiGenova talking about Obama being caught up in conspiracy charges, talking about a grand jury. This is big stuff. Now, I know we all want it now. I certainly do. Maybe I'm just referring to myself. Maybe we don't all want it now. Maybe just I want it now, immediately. You know, we live in the era of immediate gratification. We're not as patient as we used to be, I think. So what is going on there? But between Joe DiGenova and John Solomon saying big things coming in the next week, 10 days, and coming weeks and months with Barack Obama and a grand jury, because there was a, what's the word? Conspiracy. Not a conspiracy theory, a conspiracy that was launched by Barack Hussein Obama, who, have I ever mentioned that he was mentored by a communist when he was growing up named Frank Marshall Davis? He talks about him in his book, where he just calls him Frank. He doesn't explain who he is because he's a card-carrying member of the Communist Party. You know, and then, of course, Barack Obama chose John Penitentiary Face Brennan to be his CIA director, which should never have been the case. And the Communist Party voter, he corrupted our 2020 election, the felonious 51 letter about Hunter Biden's laptop being Russian disinformation. These are real lefties here, no joke. All right, let's see. Let's go to let's grab a phone call. Let's go to Terry, calling from the great state of South Carolina. Terry, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hi, Chris. How you doing?
Very well, Terry. Thank you very kindly.
You mentioned Debbie Wasserman-Schnitz and her complaint about how we're holding illegal aliens in Alligator Alcatraz. And I just remember when I was in our United States Navy, I lived in barracks for quite a period of time, very similar in construct, where commodes were about 3 feet apart in a long row, and you could just sit there and chat with your neighbor. And talking politics.
Yeah, well, these people don't get out much, do they, Debbie? I've got that audio coming up, Terry, and yeah, you're right. What had you been convicted of a crime when you went into the Navy, or you joined the Navy voluntarily?
No, I joined voluntarily.
Yeah, and they didn't provide you with all the luxuries of home and the privacy that you might have liked.
Well,
well, no, they didn't. No,
I learned to grow up real quick.
Yeah, that's a fact. Well, I'm glad you called in with that, Terry. That's funny. We've got Debbie Wasserman-Schnitz coming up, complaining on behalf of the illegal alien gang members that the Democrat Party wants to date. And when I say, Terry, that they want to date, what I'm saying is, all right, I think you know what I'm saying. I think you know. You know all about it. Yeah, well, wait till you hear this, Debbie Wasserman-Schnitz. Well, we'll play her coming up, because they rush to the defense of every criminal illegal alien gang member in the country. They want more of that. Thank you, Terry. You know that the all-new third-generation Eden Pure Thunderstorm Air Purifier is finally here. And the third generation builds on the incredible success of the previous generations, and those models earned thousands of five-star reviews on Al Gore's amazing internet, became a bestseller immediately. The new Eden Pure Thunderstorm uses two technologies that studies have demonstrated help to kill up to 99.9% of bacteria and viruses floating in the air of your home that you might breathe. It also removes dust and pet dander, smoke, and a whole lot of nastiness from the air. And it helps get rid of any odor with no filters to have to buy or replace again and again. That's annoying, isn't it? The Thunderstorm will help get rid of any stinky smell, guaranteed. Talking about odors from trash cans and cigarette smoke and liberals and musty basements. No match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. Right now, you can save $200 American dollars on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for a whole home protection because you and I hang out together. You could put one in the basement, the bedroom, any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air, the kitchen, the teenager's room. Go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code CHRIS3, CHRIS and the number 3 to save $200 on 3 Thunderstorms. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is CHRIS3. All right, well, we just talked about Debbie Wasserman Schnitz, so we've got that coming. And we got a lot of crazy Democrats. And also Bastille Day coming up.
They brush their teeth where they poop.
All right, we have we have Debbie Wasserman Schnitz coming in now. She's in the elevator. No, she's not. She's not really. Just kidding. Wouldn't have her on the show. Well, maybe I make fun of her, just mock her and ridicule her, but doesn't deserve that kind of respect. Yeah, wait till you hear what she has to say about the places where illegal alien gang members using child labor to, and we'll update you on the marijuana fields with the illegal aliens that the Democrats love so much. That's coming up as well.